Big deal. Now, there is a burning debate on regulations for online content, which has really caught the imagination of the country. Several arguments, court cases, and lobbies have really sprung into action in the last couple of weeks. So today we discuss the points of contention and how this process of altercation will eventually manifest into the big picture goal of setting the standards and a framework for the online world. Joining me for this discussion are experts Mohandas Pai, Ajay Roti, as well as N.S. Napinai. Thank you so much, lady and gentlemen, for joining us on CNBC TV 18. Now, Mohandas Pai, the year 2021 really started with the big clashes between the world powers as well as the tech giants. And India has also had a fair share of that. Now, are the recent rules and many in the works a way to really reinforce first the primacy of the administrators and also to define the ground rules of the operations of these social media and digital companies?
Well, I think we need to understand the context well before we come to any conclusion. The fact is, social media companies have become digital monopolies. Very large number of people are on social media. Out of 7.8 billion people, 4.5 billion people are on social media. And they're all monopolies in very, very few companies. They gather your data, they run their own rules, they have one-sided agreements which all of us sign, and they use our data for revenue generation and many other things. Now, the big issue that has come up globally is how do you protect users of these social media platforms against the social media companies which are riding roughshod over them? The glamour of all this democratization of media, democratization of access is all gone because they become utilities. And as they become utilities with great power over the subjects, great power with all of us, because we are all become pieces of data and they can use it to manipulate our minds. How should governments react and how should governments protect everybody? And the big issue which brought it to the climax was the political positioning they took in the recent US election and the big furor about Cambridge Analytica using data from Facebook. So today we see all across the world, countries coming out with norms to protect users from these big data companies. So India too is bringing in these guidelines. We say very clearly that users will be protected, grievance redressal mechanism, etc. OTT platforms have to be regulated the same way that movies are being done in physical theaters, and digital media has to come up to the same standard that traditional media is. So I think I see this move towards protecting citizens, protecting users, because governments have understood the power of big digital media, which are digital platforms, and their ability to control our minds.
That's right. And in fact, Supreme Court in a recent judgment had also said that these OTT players need to be regulated in some way. But let me get a legal view on that. Looking at the cases which have sprung up in the last couple of weeks, in the Kerala High Court as well as Delhi High Court, from the legal angle, what do you think are the main reasons? Is it hinting at the government overreach, you think?
Well, my personal view is this is not government overreach, because the Supreme Court has said very clearly that OTT platforms have to be regulated. There has to be a law. And what has been issued by the government is guidelines, and we need to have a law. Remember, in India, we have this debate about data privacy laws. And the data privacy laws have still not been implemented because there are many lobbies at work. So we need data privacy laws. We need data residency laws. We need data sovereignty laws. And we have to decide once and for all to whom does the data belong, who has to regulate, who has to protect. And I'm sure all of us, including you, require protection from this big data because the huge animals who have the power over us, they all become public utilities like power and telecom.
That's right. It's a utility. We cannot survive without them. I can call it a necessary evil at this point. And how we use it, and instead of getting consumed by social media as well as big tech giants. But the question to you, Ms. Napinai, I wanted to understand, what are these contentions that have gone to the court? What is the moot point of discussion there?
So the issue is very simple, Nisha. That OTT platforms require regulation may be appropriate. that news media should be on par with print media or television in terms of regulation may also be a fair premise. But how do you ensure that regulation is actually the real issue here? And that is the primary legal ground that is very shaky for the government today. Because if you look at the manner in which this regulation is sought to be brought in, we have what is called as intermediaries under the Information Technology Act. And as the word itself says, they are just intermediaries. They are the people in the middle. So they do not control the content which is on their platform. They do not control who is the person generating the content or to whom it is going. So when you speak about publishers of news and current affairs or of curated content online, the very wording says that you know what the content that you're putting up is. You know to whom you're addressing that content or from whom you're receiving the content. So clearly they are not intermediaries. And what has been done is the guidelines are framed under the what is called as delegated legislative powers. Because in India, law can only be framed by the legislators, be it in the union or the state. So no one else can usurp that right. So the only way someone else can also do some part of lawmaking is through delegated legislation. And that delegated legislation is a rule-making power which forms part of a parent law. So under the IT Act, and here it's the Information Technology Act, when you have a rule-making power and that rule-making power is for making rules for intermediaries, it can only be limited to that. You can't then expand it as you deem fit and say, oh, OTT platforms need regulation. Of course, fair point. News media also needs regulation to bring it on a level playing field. Again, fair point. So what is the easiest way? Let's just use the intermediary guidelines. That is not workable.
All
And
right.
that
So
is the biggest fallacy here.
All right. So the biggest moot point of contention here is the sustainability of inclusion of news portals in the OTT bracket when the government sets these guidelines, because they are two very different subjects, and that's what news portals have really reacted against and taken the matter to the court. Now, Ajay Roti, this is not just about regulating the content. It also changes the entire landscape of some of these global companies who have set shop in India without being physically present here. And some of the guidelines also state that you need to have a physical presence and you need to also put down your contact address on the app as well as your website. How does this change the rules of the game?
Good evening, Nisha. I think, if there is one other subject which is as debated as the way these companies use data is really the taxation rules that apply to them. And, I'll have to just take a few steps back or probably a few 100 years back and lay out what the history for the current international tax rules are. So the current international tax rules, which very simply put, distributes profits between 2-3 countries where there is a cross-border transaction, were really put in place in the 1920s. And, at that point, really value creation, value and economic activity was linked to physical presence. Therefore, most of the tax rules say that if a particular company has a physical presence in another country by way of office, presence of employees, or, having an agent, etc., then they would be liable to tax in that other country where they operate. Now, come to the 2000s and 2010s when the social media companies started operating, or even the online marketplaces started operating, they could very efficiently and effectively operate in a country, earn a lot of income without having any kind of presence in that country. So you could have a US multinational run its business in India, whether as a form of an online marketplace, or social media apps with ad revenues and things like that, without ever opening an office in India, no employees in India, no servers in India. Therefore, the entire international tax community, including the OECD, UN, etc., are engaged in discussions to see how we can create a nexus for these kind of companies. And one of the things most countries today are thinking of is to create nexus using the users. Now, leaving that aside, what happens today once these intermediary rules come into force is there are a lot of things which both Mr. Pai and Ms. Napi and I discussed in terms of grievance, in terms of what they have to do, data, etc. There are two significant things which apply to social media intermediaries, and they've been defined to mean any platform which enables an online interaction between two users and allows them to create, upload, share information. So it would cover most of the messaging apps, most of the media-based social media apps, and then any social media intermediary which has more than 50 lakh users, which would be a significant social media intermediary. And those companies are required to have 3 employees resident in India, one of whom is a chief compliance officer, second is a resident grievance officer, and a nodal officer who would be available for the government agencies in case of any information that they need, which means now suddenly these social media companies are required to have employees who are resident in India. And like you just spoke a few minutes back, they're also required to have a physical office address in India, which has to be put on their app or their platform. Therefore, now suddenly these companies have an office or need to have an office and some employees present here. This does change quite a few things for them from a tax perspective. Now, the fact that they have a presence does not necessarily mean they'll have a tax liability. That's a different exercise. But then they'll now have a possibility of getting into the tax net in India because of a presence here, both income tax, GST registrations, and a lot of other compliances that come with that.
That's right. This is the main point. If they will be made taxable, and there is a lot of hue and cry about these big giants being taxed in several countries that they operate, and India has taken a huge amount of lead in this particular arena. In fact, we'll discuss that more with the panelists, and especially Mohandas Pai is itching to talk on that. So that's after a very short break. Stay tuned to Big Deal. Back on Big Deal, we are discussing the various arguments around the regulations of online content. And we are talking about the digital taxation framework, where the entire world is talking about it. And it has really divided the world into the ones which are probably evading the tax and getting more of the businesses, and the ones which are data rich and probably falling in the hands of these big tech giants. Mohandas Pai, jump in on this. Of course, OECD pillars and all those are in the works. India has already been signatory to those 10 countries in the world which have really tried to take their pound of flesh in this whole digital taxation space. What do we need to do? And will these guidelines lead us to the proper taxation of big tech giants?
Nisha, I think we need to understand a very important factor. There are 2 parts of the world in the digital world, the United States and the rest, excluding China. The United States has all the digital monopolies, all the big companies. It taxes them because they're residents in the US, even though most of these companies shelter their income outside and they try to avoid US tax. Now, the rest of us pay them and the money goes to them and they shelter it in Ireland or somewhere else. I'm sure my friend can talk about that. So let's come to fundamental principle. The fundamental principle is every nation deserves to tax the income that arises for any entity in that nation. Earlier is done by a physical presence. In the digital world, they cannot be a physical presence. So what did India do? India put the Google tax based on the advertising revenues and other revenues paid by Indian residents to Google and said we pay 8%, 9%, whatever it is. What France did was to do a similar thing in France. Now the EU has come with a policy to say we need to have a digital tax because we are losing revenue. We are paying money to Google, Facebook, everybody. The money is going to them. They're putting in a tax shelter. The US may not get it. The US is not coming and joining the table. So we need a global tax treaty. How to tax the digital companies? Because of a very important reason. Like my friend said, physical presence is not a requisite. The earlier norm was there. Now you could have a set of servers in the cloud somewhere at the bottom of the ocean, in the free ocean where no nation has sovereignty. So what do? You could put in a tax shelter and create all this framework. And if you look at all the digital companies, the digital media companies, that effective tax rate is very, very low. So we have to come to first principles. India has taken the stand, good or bad, and the EU is taking the stand now. They called President Biden to come to the table. If it doesn't come, they're going to go ahead. And very soon, we'll have a double taxation treaty between a set of countries who are users. And like I said, India is a consumer of apps and a creator of apps. Many countries in the world are consumers, not creators. The US is a consumer and a creator. And Europe is more a consumer than a creator. So I think there are different parts of the world. So we need a global treaty to make sure that each country gets its proper tax. Otherwise, a huge amount of income is going to flow out from all these companies. And you've seen, Nisha, that their market valuation is very, very huge. Why is the market valuation is huge? Because of growth, because of high revenues, high profitability. The time has come for a digital tax through a global policy. If it does not, many countries are going to impose it, and India is a leader along with the EU.
That's right. In fact, government agencies, including Amitabh Kant on CNBC TV 18, has several times said that we need to use this opportunity of being data rich. Now, Ajay Roti, to the point I was earlier asking you, a pointed question. Does a physical presence mean that a tax implication could come in? And second, how will some of your clients really structure their business in India? And does that also include an FDI aspect in it? Because in news media, there is an FDI restriction. And now that they have a physical presence in India, will the FDI rules also restrict some of these digital news portals?
Yeah, so I'll take the first one, which is tax. Yeah, presence it will be a taxable presence, and there could be implications under both income tax and GST. And also, you need to remember that tax laws actually have a distinct entity concept, which means the branch or any presence here will be treated as a distinct entity from the head office. Therefore, there will be GST and income tax implications. How much will the liability depend on what will be the profits that will be attributable to India? But obtaining tax registrations, permanent account numbers, furnishing of returns, all those will come in. That will happen. Now, coming to your second part on FDI. Now, they are required to have a presence in India, have employees here and an office. It really depends what form they use. Will they have a branch here or a subsidiary? And if they create a subsidiary, which means the FDI regulations come in, because there will be an investment by the foreign company into that Indian company. And like you rightly said, digital news has a 26% FDI limit with a government approval. Now, there was a little bit of confusion on what that digital news would be, because it was a very wide definition. And recently in October 2020, the government has clarified that it will include even the news aggregators which permit or have a platform where people can share news, which means, some of the social media companies could get covered there. Then if they get covered there, then the 26% FDI limit could come in. And I think there is a need for clarity here as to whether those 26% and the digital news sectoral caps of FDI would apply in these cases or not.
Right. All right. So two very important points made by Ajay Roti. And in fact, those are the key headlines of the outcome of these guidelines. First, the taxability in the digital space becomes much easier with a physical presence here. The government has taken a step in that direction. And FDI in news, if that was camouflaged by the virtual world, which transcends beyond geographies, now will that come into place? So the news portals being now more under FDI control, and those restrictions will be applicable or not. But Ms. Napinai, the two aspects of Delhi High Court's verdict or the case which is still going on, and the Kerala High Court's stay on the coercive action on LiveView as a news curator, news portal curator. How does this showcase in which direction the legal aspects are going to change the face of these guidelines?
It's a very, very important aspect, and it's completely different. I'm so glad that these two issues have been raised in two different courts. The first, Nisha, is that, one, this was originally a game of cricket. Then they tried to introduce football into it, and then Kabaddi kind of sneaked in. So, you had intermediaries and rules for them, and then OTT platforms were added. And thereafter, news media, online news media was added into it. So now what is being done is intermediary rules are being applied for playing a completely different game. And even in that, you can't equate OTT with news media. So you can't play football with Kabaddi rules or vice versa also, right? So that's exactly what the guidelines are trying to do. Firstly, it specifies that Part 3 applies to publishers of news and current affairs, and also for curated OTT content. And thereafter distinguishes them from intermediaries. Now, within the news and current affairs also, there was a lot of furor assuming that there was complete clarity that it applied to online news media. The live law case, which is before the Kerala High Court, actually debunks that and points out how it is not just about news or online news media on par with print or television,
Yes.
but anybody and everybody who may be disseminating news or any online platform which is curating its content can also be dragged in. So we are not
Right.
really talking only about Netflix's or Amazon as OTT or just news platforms as news and current affairs.
That's
it could just be anybody. And that is ambiguity which is not permissible in law.
All
You
right.
have to have certainty in law.
All right, certainty, and we have to also define and redefine the different segments that have really appeared in the online content space. And 10 seconds to Mohandas Pai. I'm totally running out of time. What is required by the Indian government? 10 seconds.
What is required is a set of laws passed through Parliament about data privacy, data residency, data sovereignty, etc. A set of laws which lead to guidelines. The IT Act is antiquated. We need a new set of laws. And when those set of laws come, like the Supreme Court has said, which will have enforceability, which will give power to the government, done by the sovereign parliament, then I think, we'll set the framework for everything else. But the fact remains, Nisha, we as users require protection from the tyranny of global digital monopolies. They become extremely big. They become nations by themselves.
All right, very, very heavy words there. Tyranny of these social media companies, and they'll become countries in themselves. Thank you so much, gentlemen and lady, for joining us on this raging debate across the country right now. And we'll get you all sides of the view as it goes on by the argumentative Indians. And remember, this is what makes us a robust democracy. For now, it's goodbye from the entire team of Big Deal.